Jake the Snake Roberts, a.k.a. Aurelian Smith Jr., was actually afraid of snakes. It was a gimmick put forth by Vince McMahon. Jake went along with it, and it was Jake's idea to carry around the snake. Coming up in the video, we're going to be discussing what he really wanted to be when he grew up and how he invented the DDT, plus Andre the Giant's gas. These are all things we're going to be covering in the video. I've actually had been fortunate enough to meet Jake the Snake Roberts. You'll see those pictures popping up over there of the time where he does the slap, the chop, one of those things on you, because he would tour and he does comedy at this point where it's really just sort of a storytelling comedy where he talks about all the crazy stuff that he's been through in his life. And at the end of every stand-up routine, he brings somebody up on stage and he gives them the old chop on the chest. And he did that to me. I think it was either on my birthday or like the day before. And I was happy. I was so happy. I hugged him without a shirt on. And you'll see those pictures. I'll put those up here at the end. Remind me, Lan, to put those pictures up.
Yeah, but I'm sure he's got a lot of shirtless people to hug him.
Yeah, Which I mean, he's been a wrestler for how many years? Like, sweaty,
Forever.
Dudes with no shirts on. All right, I'm putting a note at the end. Put up pics. All right, so I got basically some questions here for Alan. He's a big wrestling fan, and so we're going to see how much he knows about Jake the Snake Roberts. He came from a wrestling family, as his father was Grizzly Smith, who, come to find out, like all the stories that have come out after the fact, is his dad is.
He's a douchebag.
He was a piece of shit. Like, he was a piece of shit. All right, so he came from a wrestling family. His father was Grizzly Smith. His father left out one important detail of professional wrestling when he was a kid. What was that important detail?
Probably that it's not real.
Yeah, it's scripted. Yeah, so his dad would walk around with like a neck brace on or his arm in a sling, and young Jake Roberts, or Aurelian Smith, thought that his dad was legitimately hurt. Now, obviously, wrestling, as much as we want to call it fake, they still get hurt really bad, especially if you were ever wrestling Goldberg. But that was one of those things that Jake, growing up, legitimately thought his dad was hurt all the damn time. Just because he was wearing some sort of a cast or a brace or something like that. So growing up, Jake the Snake didn't want to be a wrestler. He wanted to be an architect. What caused him to get into wrestling? And I have a very lengthy answer written, but if you can just kind of fire off a shortened, abbreviated answer that's around the ballpark, I'll give you the point.
I just think that he liked the aspect of the sports entertainment.
No, that is actually not why he decided to get into wrestling. It was he felt that it was the only way to gain his father's love. He said that, quote, "I was at a wrestling show watching my dad wrestle and decided in my idiot of a brain, mixed with a little beer, that if I was ever going to get my father to love me, I would have to go in there and challenge one of those wrestlers." He ended up doing that, and he ended up getting his ass kicked. So he ends up backstage right after that, where his dad told him, and this is, again, we'll talk more about the documentaries that you can go check out, because this is a true just redemption story. It's the Jake the Snake Roberts story. Yeah. And you find out just how awful it was growing up, because after this happens, where he's trying to gain his father's love, he's backstage and his dad says, quote, "You're gutless, you're embarrassing me, and you'll never amount to anything." And then it was at that moment that Jake decided, basically, F you, I'm going to go become a professional wrestler and do this better than you ever did, which obviously he ended up doing by becoming Jake the Snake Roberts.
What a great dad.
So he invented the DDT by accident. It is known, though, that Mexican wrestler Black Gordman is credited with truly inventing the move back in the 70s, but a lot of people give credit to Jake the Snake, especially because of the name. Who did he accidentally perform the first DDT on, and how?
I don't remember the name of the guy he did it on, but he basically just had him in a front headlock, and he kind of tripped over, and he fell with him. But I'll just say, I'm just going to pull a random jobber name out of my head, and I'm going to say Barry Horowitz.
Oh, I think I say Mr. O. No, it was the Grappler in the mid-'80s. The Grappler. And yeah, you're right. Jake had him in a headlock, and the Grappler stepped on Jake's foot, which caused him to fall backwards, and then boom, there is your DDT. What famous group was Jake the Snake Roberts a member of?
AARP.
He may be a member of that now, but not back then. He was a member of the...
I just remember him just being solo. I don't remember him joining a group.
He was a member of the Legion of Doom.
Oh, okay.
Seems like Alan's trying to put 2 and 2 together here. That O right there tells me that you're not fully confident that I'm right in this one.
Oh, I mean,
Brandon, you're full of shit. Is what that was.
No, I'm just trying to think, because back then in the 80s, WWE, they always had, like, you know, with Survivor Series and stuff like that, like, there were a bunch of people who would walk around with LOD makeup when they were on the same team. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm like, oh, okay. But it makes sense.
So the original Legion of Doom, it was a group of wrestlers from the National Wrestling Alliance in 1983. So it was managed by Road Warriors manager Paul Ellering.
Oh, yep.
And then the group included Hawk, Animal, Matt Bourne. Do you know who that was?
Ah, that's Beetlejuice.
The original Doink.
The original Doink, yeah. And Eddie Guerrero's very, very good friend.
It also included King Kong Bundy, your good friend Arn Anderson, and Jake the Snake Roberts, who was also one of those members of the Legion of Doom. I keep wanting to say Legion of Boom because the Seahawks.
Oh, Seahawks.
That's been, obviously a bigger thing within the past 15 years.
Quick fact, Matt Bourne was a professional wrestler here in Portland, Oregon, too.
See, this is why I do these with Alan, because he knows stuff like that. Have I ever told you the story about how upset my dad was when he went backstage at a Portland wrestling match, and it was the 2 main guys that were rivals, and they were backstage playing cards against each other?
They didn't keep kayfabe.
Yeah, no, like he ended up backstage, and it was like I got to ask him who it was, because he can remember the story vividly. He's like, he just went back there, and they're just playing cards together, like Go Fish, and he's like, it was heartbreaking for him. So in 1986, Jake the Snake was so popular that the WWE/WWF had to pivot on a feud that they had planned. Who was the feud against?
I know this one. It's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Bring in the hate.
Yep.
There was even an attack on Hogan that was filmed for the Snake Pit. Remember, that was Robert's talk show. And it aired in a few markets. After a few house show matches ensued, it was clear that Roberts was too popular to be the heel to Hogan's hero.
Yep.
See what I did there? Andre the Giant used to do something to his opponents not a lot of people at the time were privy to. He did it to Jake the Snake. What was it?
He farted on him.
He farted.
Yeah, I know those stories.
So Andre would sit on his opponent and fart. But here's what Jake said about it. Quote, "Him sitting on me and farting on me was a horrible experience. I did not realize how long a giant could fart. So it was like 25 seconds of just brutal gas. There's something about vodka and wine with not much food that really gives a man a nasty potion to inhale. I know I thought I had a birthmark on my arm, but it was just a wine stain from his ass."
Man,
that's the kind of stuff that you would get when you would go see him doing the stand-up, man. It was great. All right, some quick facts here about Jake the Snake Roberts. Honky Tonk Man legitimately injured Jake with a real guitar, and you can find this on YouTube. It was during the Snake Pit Superstars from February 21st, 1987, where Honky Tonk Man looks like he goes back behind the curtains, and then he walks around. Jake turns around. And then when he turns back to the camera, Honky Tonk Man's there. And when he clocks him with it, you can tell that's not a fake guitar. Like, that was legit. And apparently it concussed him. It also jacked his neck up pretty bad. His 90s Bible-thumping character was real. And that was what led to...
You got your jaw in 316. Well, Austin 316 said I just fucked that up.
Yeah, you're right. It's Austin 3. Austin 316 says, I just whipped your ass. I always felt bad watching that because knowing now, obviously, the demons that Jake the Snake was going through and the fact that one of the reasons that he, kind of found God and was a Bible thumper is because he was trying to battle those demons, but then to use that in it's really difficult. It's really difficult to watch. Jake the Snake actually taught DDP how to wrestle, to which DDP would, of course, repay the favor by basically saving Jake's life later on. And we'll get to those documentaries here in a little bit that you can watch that are absolutely fantastic. But finally, true or false, Jake the Snake never held a title in either WWF or WCW.
True.
It is true.
I've never seen him with a belt.
Yeah, he never actually held a major title, although he was elected to the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2014. Also, did you know that WCW banned the Snake? They wouldn't allow him
I didn't know that.
They wouldn't allow him to bring Damien out, which, of course, there was multiple Damiens throughout the entire time of Jake the Snake. So if you do want to see the true redemption story, go back, watch the 1999 documentary Beyond the Mat, followed by the resurrection of Jake the Snake Roberts, because Beyond the Mat was a brutal look behind the scenes of the wrestling industry back then, because this is before we had like A&E doing these biographies, Vice doing the I always forget the name of their docuseries.
Dark Side of the Ring.
Dark Side of the Ring. And so it was before a lot of those were coming out. And so to see that, the big stories were obviously it was Mankind or Mick Foley. You had the whole Jake the Snake thing, and you learn how just tumultuous the relationship is with his family, including his kids, and how he told this one wrestling company they had already paid him up front for what he's going to be paid to do the event, and then he called back and was like, "If you guys don't give me crack, I'm not going to go." It's really difficult to watch, but if you can get through that stuff. Oh, again, Terry Funk, also the other guy that's really big in Beyond the Mat. But then go watch the resurrection of Jake the Snake, because it shows him conquering those demons. And I did get a chance to meet him. I think this would have been 2017-ish, 2018 maybe. So this, when he's clean and sober, and he was a great guy to talk to. He was one of the nicest people on the planet. And what happened was, again, like I said at the beginning, he would do the chop on your chest, and he'd basically do it. He'd be like, "Oh, it's like, you kind of pull back to sell it." And he's like, "You really got to sell it. You got to sell it." So I'm like, "Yeah, I got this. I was getting all ramped up." And he goes, "Wow." And he hits me on the chest, and I'm like, "Oh." So I'm selling it. And then I kind of like, "Oh." So I put my hands on my knees. And so then he's like, "Oh, I'm going to hit him again." And he goes, "Wow," like right on my back. And I'm like, "Oh." So there's pictures, which will be over here, of not only the handprint on me from him, but also grown Brandon hugging a grown Jake the Snake Roberts with no shirt on, by the way.
That's okay.
Oh, God. But if you like these stories, you like these videos, please, by all means, make sure you're clicking like down below, subscribe, and then you're hitting the bell for when new videos pop up and for when we also go on live.